How's it going, everybody? I am Donut. I am here with my fiance, Thermite Kitty.
That's me.
We are reacting to Loki, Season 1, Episode 3. This is, of course, a Black Lives Matter, all cops are bastards, and trans rights supporting channel. If you're not supporting that shit, get the fuck off this channel. This episode is Lamentis? Is that how you say that? Lamentis.
I mean, I think so.
No idea what that means?
Same. Yeah. Oh boy, what do you think this means?
Maybe a character's name, like Lament, and then Is is like the just part of the name. But yeah, no real predictions. I mean, I assume like no predictions off the episode name, but I assume that we're going to be getting a lot of stuff with the variant and what like specifically what bombing the timeline means. More specifics as to like what are these time resets.
Yeah. For my guess, I'm going to... I think it's also probably a name, but I'll say, like, as my second guess, that it's, like, a thing that needs to be activated or done. Like, you know, this is all to, like, allow Lamentis to happen, whatever it is. Like, that's going to be the end goal.
Okay. Like, yeah, not a character or a place, but, like, a concept.
Yeah, because, like, we've got, you know, the variant went into the portal. Loki, or our Loki, I suppose, went after him. So I think it's going to be a, like, you know, this is the plan. You should join up with me as my inferior force, and we're gonna do Lamentis.
Gotcha. Let's get into this. If you want to get the full length, check out on the Patreon below. If you want to get early access to the whole season ahead, go check that out on Patreon as well. Let's jump into this. Okay. So maybe they're not. My guess was that they were going to the TVA. But I don't think that's the case now.
Yeah. Loki rave?
Ooh.
We could do potato skins or buffalo fingers.
Or we could eat somewhere else.
Why do you hate this place?
I don't hate it, I fear it.
Oh, God. Brain freeze.
You know what brain freeze is, don't you?
Here we go.
It permeates the roof of your mouth and freezes the synapses in your brain, so your memories are literally frozen in place.
That is absolutely not true.
It is! Okay, try it. Whatever you're thinking about will get frozen in place. How many people are guarding the timekeepers?
Sorry, what?
So, is this what was going on with... This is a very interesting illusion. And, like, implanting memories as well, I assume, of them being friends.
Yeah.
This place, I remember, I know this place.
This is so cool. Still, what did she mean by it's real?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to get the answer to that, like, so soon, which we still didn't, but now I'm even more curious what she meant by that.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're right.
I was right.
Damn.
Oh, right, magic's not
Oh, right. And she didn't know that. Oh, damn.
So cool. Now this is something that our Loki could never do.
Not in the slightest. Such a contrast.
Now why did it close right behind?
Like, was this intentional, or did she just screw it up?
Come any closer and I'll kill him.
I don't think they
Go
care.
for it.
Nice.
Oh.
Okay. Bad batteries.
Just give it back to me. You don't even know how to recharge it.
Of course I do. Not the only tech-savvy Loki.
Don't ever call me that.
Tech-savvy?
No, Loki.
This is the ultimate, like, trying to have determinism. Like, fine, if Loki is fated to do all this stuff, then I won't be Loki.
Oh, that's a really good way of putting it.
Another apocalypse.
Lamentis won.
I assume this is like a space.
Yeah.
But is this an Earth space?
Idiot! This is Lamentis 1!
I don't know what I mean!
The balloon that planet is about to crash into and destroy! Of all of the apocalypses saved on that temp, this is the worst! Don't
Really?
get off here! Watch out! There!
Is there a team now?
Oh God, no!
This is pretty dope.
Didn't need you.
Yeah.
You're so weird!
The effects are very interesting. They're so heavy. Like the filters.
Yeah. Feels way more like British sci-fi.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I'm just not much of a fan of, so I guess that's really it.
And how long do they have? Like, how long is this
Yeah.
apocalypse going to go on for?
Yeah, well, considering it's a planet crashing into them, I assume they got some time. It's
Yeah.
not very fast.
So what's the plan?
There's a town near here. And can you shut up? Just because I have to work with you doesn't mean I want to hear your voice. Don't call me Variant.
What do you want to be called?
I'm Sylvie now.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not very Loki-like.
Yeah? What exactly makes a Loki a Loki?
Independence, authority, style.
So naturally you went to work for the boring, oppressive time police.
Your years in the making plan was to tear the place down, create the ultimate power vacuum, and then just walk away. I'd never have done that.
Yeah? Well, I'm not you.
Oh, yeah, he's just proving her point more and more.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this one my way.
I wonder why this thing doesn't
hey.
launch.
Tickets?
Orders come from the top to get her on this train.
Sir, this...
Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, I just remembered that headquarters radioed in the request for them this morning.
Okay. Okay.
Ah, I love this train.
Yeah.
I was adopted. Is that a bit of a spoiler for you? Sorry about that.
No, I knew I was adopted.
What? They told you?
Yeah. Did they not tell you?
No.
Hmm.
Yikes.
Hang on a second. So, tell me about your mother.
Yeah.
I barely remember her. Just blips of a dream at this point.
You know, when I was young, she'd do these little bits of magic for me. She told me that one day I'd be able to do it too, because I could do anything.
I like how much, like, more we're getting of their relationship in this.
Yeah. We got a tiny little bit in Endgame. I've always wanted more.
Yeah.
She was the kind of person you want to believe in you.
Sounds like she does.
Well, she did.
That's gotta be, like, nothing
Yeah,
to
pity the
compare to
old JOJO'S
Asgardian
died, I
line.
think.
Oh, yeah.
She hated him.
Maybe love is hate.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that. Love is hate.
Oh, piss off.
Where does that stuff go? Or is it just an illusion?
Is there a
Might just be an illusion.
lucky bow waiting for you at the end of this crusade?
It was only ever just to keep me going. How about you? Must have been would-be princesses? Or perhaps another prince?
A bit of both. I suspect the same as you. But nothing ever...
Hell yeah.
Real.
Love is something I might have to have another drink to think about.
I wonder where we're gonna end up at the end of this series, because, man, these two have a lot of chemistry.
Is it queer to date yourself?
I mean, we are establishing over and over again that Sylvia, was that her name?
Sylvie.
Sylvie? Sylvie is not Loki.
Yeah, she is unbelievably different.
When she sings, come home. Man, crying and dancing, the voice of the dancer, dancing and the king come down.
Now, is this just an illusion? It'd have to be a big one.
Yeah.
Over Isfria tagen med frem
What the hell?
I Äpplehagen stam och den vene. Men
What the hell?
Tom's got some ding chops. Goddamn.
Another!
Love is a dagger. It's a weapon to be wielded far away or up close. You can see yourself in it. It's beautiful until it makes you bleed. But ultimately, when you reach for it.
It isn't real. Love is an imaginary dagger.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
Terrible metaphor.
I thought I had something there.
There's something.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
Look, is this really necessary? There is a simple explanation. Hey.
Oh,
Oh,
damn. It's pretty good at being drunk.
Yeah. Goddamn. Oh no.
Well, bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, shit. Oh, boy.
I did take quite the tumble.
You arsehole.
God damn.
Maybe we can fix it. Okay?
Is this a trick?
You got drunk on the train.
I'm hedonistic. That's what I do.
I'm hedonistic. A lot more than you, I assure you. But never at the expense of the mission.
Oh, the mission. The mission? What, your glorious purpose? Give me a break. You can't beat them.
Jeez. I like that. I don't know what I can trust in this show. Like, is it actually broken? Is it a trick? I don't know.
Is she still asleep?
Did he actually get drunk on the train? Yeah, is she still asleep? Is this all been a game?
Or is he just this bad?
Yeah. And we really went from one buddy cop dynamic to another one.
Yeah.
So what, we hijack the Ark and make sure it gets off this moon?
Can you un-apocalypse an apocalypse?
There's already so many divergent timelines. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Damn, that thing's close.
I had to pull a memory from hundreds of years prior, before she even fought for them.
So,
damn.
People get recruited.
Before she joined the TVA.
Yeah.
Not
she was
created.
just a regular person on Earth.
A regular person.
Love margaritas. They're all variants, just like us.
Okay. So that's what she meant by it's real. Her those like memories that she would occasionally get are real, not just like dreams.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh my god. I mean, Jesus Christ, so fucked up.
I mean, it's really fucked up.
Now, how do you get there? And are they gonna try and save everybody? But 5 minutes to launch, they said?
Yeah.
How are we gonna do this?
It's on his mind, but I don't think he's gonna try and save them. But I want him to.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh
I don't
boy.
think there's time. If it never launched and it has 5 minutes.
Also, the planet exploding does add to the, why this is the biggest apocalypse.
Yeah.
God, I love these sets.
It's so a video game, like, cyberpunk world, or, like, just a very futuristic kind of city. Because, like, everything's so tight and small.
Yeah. It's a good way of putting it.
This is hectic. Crazy.
Oh, boy.
I do love how much this feels like a level in a video game.
Yeah.
What? Okay. No way. How? This has to be an illusion, all of it. But how would he do that? But then how would he do that?
Yeah. What the heck? Or is she enchanting him?
But why would he believe he could do that?
Yeah, you're right.
But you're right, who is doing the illusion here?
fuck.
Okay, that's
What
where we're
the
ending?
fuck?
Man, these
That's where
episodes
we're
always
ending it.
end in the most, like, would never have expected it to end there.
Yeah. Dear Lord.
Yeah. Oh, man. I don't even know what to talk about this episode because I don't know what's real, what's not.
Oh my god.
I want to just jump into the next episode immediately.
Seriously.
Honestly, this show feels the most like old television, even more than like Wanda did, because it has those like cliffhangers that make me immediately want to watch the next episode, as opposed to like,
Yeah.
I feel like the other stuff has like so much go on per episode that it's like, oh, I feel fulfilled. But this is like, no, I need to know more. It's got that like mystery element that it's just like, I need to know what's going on.
Yeah, you never know enough, whether it's about the mainline plot or just about anything going on.
Okay, here for the discussion of Lamentis.
Yeah.
I guessed a character, you guessed an idea, and it was a planet, it was a location. But, yeah, so, we get you, last episode, you guessed that she was going through the portal to, an extremely bad apocalypse that would be, like, very difficult to live in. Which is not true, but ended up being the case anyway, by accident.
Yeah. My intent was very, very not correct, but the letter of the law kind of worked out.
Yeah. But, again, is this, like, we had to talk of, like, a plan is not just one step. So, that leads me to believe, like, that line especially leads me to believe that this is a plot by either, like, it is a plan either by Loki or Sylvie.
Yeah. Like, yeah, so much of it, could have been completely legit. There are little things here and there that tipped us off, and, the building falling down and Loki pushing it back up was the real big, like, that is something he has never done.
Yeah. Like, there's no universe in which you could do that.
Yeah.
Also, like, why randomly Lamentis? Why the worst apocalypse? Is that truly an accident? Or did she do that? Like, I really think this has to be Loki's plot rather than Sylvie's, because she is underestimating him, and this whole show seems to be about people that think they are having this, like, utmost authority underestimating the underdog.
Yeah. Yeah, like, Loki isn't simpering enough for how much he's being dunked on.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like, he screws up so many times. He gets, hit by, the old lady. He gets thrown out of the train. The gang thrown out of the train definitely feels like a setup, just because of how, just the way in which he got, like, they were both doing really well, and then he just gets picked up by two guys and thrown out of the window.
Yeah.
It felt, like, it could have happened, could have been legit, but it felt very much like, it was planned.
100%. But then also, what is the illusion? Did they actually go through the portal to are they in Lamentis, but then he's doing some illusion stuff here? Or is, like, did they go somewhere else and or did he learn how to do the, like, touch the person, go into their mind thing?
Yeah, because that is what he was doing with the Mind Stone, with the staff.
Yeah.
And he seems like he can't do it now, but that could definitely be him trying to just, make it sound like they're more differentiated than they are. Like, his magic ability is way higher than Sylvie's. And so I could definitely see him, holding that back and say, like, oh, but I can't do that. I have no idea how that works.
Yeah. Which, he definitely didn't until he met her, but then maybe he figured it out pretty quickly. Like, after seeing it one time, he was able to figure it out. And then in the fight, in the hallway of the TVA, when she touched him, that's when this started.
I could see that, because, yeah, like, we really hold on that for a bit, where there's, like, a bit of a struggle with her using her powers on him and, like, flickering out.
That too. I mean, that was in Lamentis, right? Or... Yeah, that was in Lamentis, right?
Yeah, that was in Lamentis, like right after they fall through the portal.
Yeah. I was talking about in the hallway of the TVA when they're fighting, and like they're physically fighting, and she like grabs his arm and stuff.
Right.
But so he could have made her like think that she's grabbing him to stop him from attacking her, but he's using that contact rather than the way she does it, which is always just to reach out and grab them.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
Or like touching their head and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because also like she is the one who is constantly talking about like she's giving the exposition on what Lamentis is, but we do know that Loki like did a bunch of research on apocalypses, like even before they did like really narrowed it down. Like he did the research, he figured out they're hiding in apocalypses, and then Mobius told him about the candy bar, and they narrowed it down. So
yeah,
there's a span of time which he could have definitely learned about Lamentis and about all this stuff.
Yeah,
like in order to make the illusion really legit.
Yeah, that could definitely be it. Or they actually are on Lamentis, but he didn't actually break the watch thing. I'm not sure why I called it a watch, but he didn't break the whatever the fuck it's called. They said it so many times, and I keep forgetting it.
Mm-hmm. Same.
The Magoober.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, where the illusion started, I don't know. If I'm gonna make a guess, I'm gonna say it is in the TVA hallway is when this illusion started, and they're still in the TVA hallway.
Okay. That's a pretty good guess.
What is your guess? 'Cause I think we're both in agreement that... Are we both in agreement that Loki is the one doing this? Are we even in agreement of that?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
I can't think of a way in which this makes sense for it to be Sylvie. Like, she seems just way more straightforward, unless all of this is complete... The other thing is, like, just in terms of storytelling, like, we know less about her than we know about this Loki, who isn't our Loki, but, he's a variant of 2012 Loki. Mm-hmm. We know some things about him. So, like, if this characterization of her is all fake, I feel like that's just, a really strange use of storytelling.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense for this to be like, we're learning more about her, she's being completely legit, and then the Loki we know a little more about is the one who's lying this whole time.
Yeah, and like trying to get information out of her in the same way that she was getting information out of the TVA person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that would also definitely play into the whole, like, she, like, Sylvie thinks that she is pretty damn good, and she's being humbled a little bit by, our Loki's, magician abilities, but she hasn't been completely and utterly humbled. Like, this feels like the big moment where he can then, like, really do a big dunk at the end and go, like, yeah, that was all me, I'm so good, I'm the superior Loki.
Yeah. Oh, man. This also, the fact that, like, the time cops are not created. They are people from Earth.
Yeah.
Says a hell of a lot. Like...
Because, yeah.
And again, like, they like, wipe their minds at a certain point. And, like, they keep telling Loki, like, oh, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna do blah, blah, all this. But honestly, they are just grooming him to be a time cop.
Yeah, because he wouldn't know once they wipe his mind.
Yeah. And, like, but then what's the point of all this? Why not wipe his mind, like, right off the bat and just do it that way?
Well, no, I think that makes sense, because Mobius specifically wants his mind in order to figure out what the variant Loki they're chasing is doing.
Right, so you're saying with other people they don't do this? It's just a...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because, like, Mobius specifically calls out as an outlier, as usually we would not be dealing with a variant at all, which I assume is the fiction in there of we just don't bring in variants.
Right, because that's what I was thinking of. Like, well, if they do this every time, they clearly wouldn't know either. They do this every time, and they would always think this is special. But you would think at least Renslayer would know.
Yeah. Oh, I really wonder what's going on with her then.
Yeah.
Like, when she says that she's talked to the timekeepers, is that because she is lying about it, and she's on top, or like has her mind been altered so that she thinks she has talked to the timekeepers?
Could be, Because, yeah, once again, I think this furthers the idea that the timekeepers are not real, because they are the only thing here that is not human. And that's also been something we didn't really talk about. The fact that everybody here has been clearly human. Not even, like, MCU, I got some green skin or whatever.
Yeah, like, when Guardians does, it's like, they look human, but they're aliens. There's at least some visual flair. Like, also the TVA itself doesn't really have a lot of alienness to it. Like, it's very strange, but it's all very rooted in, like, Earth, like, architecture and Earth technology and, Earth concepts, even if they are, like, super advanced.
And the only non-human they have is Loki now. And, like, Asgardians are the only ones that look exactly like a human. No difference. But we have yet to see anything else in the entire galaxy that looks like that. I guess, did the people in Nova Prime, do they just look exactly like humans?
Yeah, like the guy who isn't racist. Like, I'm pretty sure he just looked like normal human.
That's how we know him. But yeah, so there might be people here who are not human, quote unquote, but that might also be something as well. Like, the people of Nova Prime are just humans. Like, Asgardians are definitely not, but there's nothing we've seen about the Nova Primes that wouldn't just be, I mean, that's literally the same as a human.
Yeah, they could just be seeded from another planet or something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we can take for granted how humans came to be on Earth with how everything is in the MCU.
Yeah.
I mean, and, like, whether the Inhumans are canon or not, we have, like, that sort of thing, and, like, we have certain things like that where it's like, are they human, are they not? Like, they started out as humans, but then...
How many alien species have fucked with humans?
But yeah, so... it's... do they have... Like, I think for the sake of the show, we can basically just say, like, they only have humans besides Loki until proven otherwise.
I think that's fair.
But also, I think this might explain even more so why it is Loki specifically that is being picked up for this time crime. Because, I think they are afraid of the Avengers. Like, if they are basically kidnapping variants and making them into time cops and everything like that, and they needed to do that with this person, like, they are all powerful, but I think seeing what the Avengers did, which again is like a rare occurrence out of like the million things that Doctor Strange saw in the universe, maybe they time traveled a bunch and it failed, but either way, I don't know, it seems like they are not, like, afraid of their power, but their persistence.
I could see that. Because also, like, in order to make yourself seem all-powerful, part of that is not engaging with certain threats. Yeah. Like, if you're a big conqueror or something, and there's another big empire as strong as yours, you're not going to fuck with them, because then you can maintain this illusion of, yeah, we are all-powerful, no one can fuck with us. Those guys, we could definitely beat them, but we're not going to, but we could.
Yeah, and, like, they are definitely going for the secret police vibe, so the less that they are known about, the better. And if you grab one Avenger, they're going to think, what the fuck's going on? Like, what happened to that person? Rather than, I mean, or, if they try to grab them all. So, yeah, going after Loki makes more sense in that regard.
Yeah.
Because they're not all powerful, and... they know what they're doing is fucked up to some degree. Like, not the like, people who are brainwashed, but, which also feels a little bit bad now that these people are being brainwashed and we murdered a bunch of them. If that even is what we did, or if this is all an illusion.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, I was very on board for fuck these people. Yeah, I'm with Sylvie just murdering all these people. But now it's like, oh, they're brainwashed. Not great.
They have been kidnapped. Like, they have lives they could go back to.
Yeah. They have timelines they could go back to.
Yeah.
But, like, that's also interesting because you can't just put them back in the quote-unquote sacred timeline because there's already a version of themselves there and everything like that. So, like, we have to, like, recreate whatever they did that would cause that divergent timeline.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Like, how do you even do that? But that means we're going to be creating so many more timelines. Like, there's going to be infinite timelines.
Yeah, like I think we've both come to the acceptance that like if like the series is probably going to create the multiverse.
Yeah. Or like not create the multiverse, but make it one more known and two more of a like I don't know how to put it. Because technically, we have already traveled into the multiverse by going to divergent timelines in Endgame.
Yeah.
Like, it's not quite the same, because the multiversal stuff is going to be like, like, all the timelines we are going to are very similar to the Sacred Timeline. Because I don't think the Sacred Timeline exists either.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. Like for instance, the timeline we keep on talking about, the one where this Loki came from, where shit is still very different. Like, Hydra thinks Cap is, part of Hydra now.
Yeah.
Like, if that was not blown up, or, well, actually, no, that one was blown up. We do see that happen, to be fair.
Yeah, it's reset, then where it's back on the Sacred Timeline, but then how does that fucking work?
Yeah, like, is the Sacred Timeline just, like, a trillion different timelines that are all exactly the same, like, side by side?
Yeah. Is this I can't believe I'm gonna make this fucking reference, but is this like the Rick and Morty thing, where the Sacred Timeline is essentially all these timelines that are so similar you can basically pop into another one and it is basically the exact same? Or, I guess, like, the Ancient One did talk about it in this sense too. But, like, Hawk was saying if you put the stone back, then the timeline never diverged, essentially.
Yeah.
But also, again, that would mean the whatever happens, happens, which isn't supposed to be how it worked in Endgame. But also, maybe that is how it works, simply because of the Time Police making it that way.
Yeah. Like, with the current understanding we have, I can see it as, like, you take a stone out of the timeline, now it branches off, then you put it back, and the branch that went away is still there. Like, now you have two more timelines. One is the stone never left, so that continues on like normal. The other one is the branch, which does still exist. It's not that it didn't happen, it's still there, but then the timekeepers just blow it up.
And, like, in a meta sense, the Sacred Timeline could be the mainline MCU, the stuff we know is definitively canon to this universe, versus other stuff could, like, the idea of, like, we're trying to keep the MCU pure, and this is what the MCU is, this is what Marvel movies are now. And then recently we've been having a lot more Marvel movies. Like, it's been a pretty big gap of, like, having Marvel movies happening during the MCU. There's been a pretty big gap of that not happening for a majority of the MCU's run. Like, towards the beginning of it, there was more, and then now, towards the end of it, we're getting a lot more. But, like, the meta idea of, like, this is what the Sacred Timeline is, the MCU, and then these other stuffs are different universes. And then now we are going to open it up to, like, no, all these other movies can be brought in for, multiversal stuff and whatever. That's just a separate timeline to the MCU.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. That honestly makes a lot of sense to me.
Like, this feels like they're not going on it very heavily, which I would expect them to, like WandaVision or something. But, like, or even like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, a lot of Phase 4 is tackling stuff that is being talked about in, like, the fandom side of things, and, like, addressing it very directly.
Yeah.
And so maybe that is what this is, the meta idea of, like, the TVA are the people who are going, like, this is the MCU, this is the Sacred Timeline, whether that be the fans or the people behind the scenes and everything. And then we want to open it up to all this stuff is just Marvel, and the MCU is a timeline, but it is not the sacred timeline.
Yeah. That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think that
God
might
damn.
be a good way to look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Which would mean that, like, there is just this one timeline that we're following, and the TVA are going in there and fixing it, even in a way of, like, you know, oh, we don't want to have to do a whole spin-off of what happened in this timeline because of stealing the stones and everything like that. So let's just, you know, go in and fix that.
Because, I mean, like, after this, I know we're getting What If, and you can't do what ifs if there is a sacred timeline, and all timelines, you know, revert back to that. Otherwise, every episode of What If would be, what if this happened? Well, the answer is the TVA would show up and then blow up the timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious how What If is going to present their thing. Like, are we going to get like, the Watcher saying, here's another timeline, here's another, you know, what if universe, whatever. Or is it just going to be straight in?
Yeah. I feel like they gotta do the Watcher stuff. Like, we already have the Watchers, you know, as a thing in the MCU, and I feel like it would be too unfun. Like, in Phase 3, if we got What If somehow, I feel like it would just be going straight in. But with the vibe of Phase 4, with it being more comic booky, I feel like they're definitely gonna have the Watcher show up as a, like, hey, I'm a dude, did you see Loki? That was real fucked up. We got a multiverse now.
Are we gonna get Uatu, or is it just gonna be like we've seen, there's just like the Watchers, like a bunch of them?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's also the case in the comics, I guess. We always just see Uatu.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, who knows how it's going to be. Because the only thing I do know is that, like, What If is, like, on, like, the big document of, like, the MCU viewing order, that's, like, you know, the Google Sheets document, if anybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It is listed as being non-canon. But, like, what does that fucking mean? Because everything, like, you know, there's so much shit that isn't in the MCU that is still considered canon on that document.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they consider, you know, like, Inhumans to be canon, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be canon, and stuff like that. So it's like, well, then what does that mean for... Is it just because it's animated? But we also have that, like Spider-Man animated thing coming at some points, and that's probably going to be canon, so... I don't know, that could just be a personal choice somebody made of saying that.
Yeah. Like, the only way it could be not canon in my mind is if the TVA continues on after the end of Loki, and every episode of What If does end with the Time Keepers showing up and blowing up the timeline, and the Watcher saying, alright, that one's done. It doesn't exist anymore. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I can't do anything about it, so I don't interfere.
That's a good point. Unless the TVA comes and destroys something, I'm going to consider it canon, at least to another timeline. And until the MCU brings it up in a like... in a prime... What is the sacred timeline? Like, now I'm in that head of, like, the prime MCU, but it's like, what does it have to be brought up in for me to go, that's canon? Like, Agent Carter is canon because it was brought up in the movies. Like, that happened in this timeline. But, like, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, unless it is brought up in the prime timeline, but also, like, what are we saying is the prime timeline? Are the Netflix series happening in this timeline, or are they just happening in a very similar timeline?
I think they gotta be happening in a similar timeline unless they are explicitly brought up.
But
what
by
we already know is...
Why is a Disney Plus series more canon than a Netflix series? What makes that more sacred? Other than just someone saying that. Like, you know, whether it's the TVA saying this is the sacred timeline, or Kevin Feige saying this is the sacred timeline.
I would say for us right now, because I really do love perspectives that are in the middle of something. I would say that for the two of us right now, none of the Disney Plus shows or the Netflix shows should be considered part of the sacred timeline until we see a movie. Because, like, the movies, I think, like, if we say the movies are not the sacred timeline, then we have nothing.
Yeah.
So the movies have to be part of the sacred timeline.
Well, we're watching a show right now that is talking about the sacred timeline. So I would put
But even
Loki
then-
at least in that.
No, see, I wouldn't, because the TVA does not seem like it's part of the sacred timeline, and we know Loki's, the world our Loki came from, definitely not, because they blew it up.
Fair
The world
point.
Sylvie came from, presumably also blown up.
Yeah, fair point, fair point.
So theoretically, Loki could
This is
also not be part of the
outside
sacred timeline.
Yeah, I think sacred timeline is sacred timeline. We should talk about that as being what the TVA is saying is the sacred timeline. So if we're talking about the movies, that should be the prime timeline to differentiate between the two.
All right, I can buy that.
Like the prime timeline is the movies. The sacred timeline is specifically in this show what they are talking about when they say the sacred timeline.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like they are saying the sacred timeline is the movie timeline, but if they're saying that in a show that then we are saying is outside of that timeline, does that make that true?
Yeah, I think in this moment it's useful to have that as a term that we could use to differentiate between the movies and the in-universe to Loki sacred timeline, because they can be different. I mean, it's perfectly possible. Yeah.
Even if we want to make a distinction between, like, we're saying prime timeline, we're talking about the specific timeline of the movies, and we're talking about sacred timeline when we're specifically talking about, like, it from the perspective of the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there is a difference there.
Yeah.
Because the word sacred adds a lot of weight to it of personal opinion, versus prime timeline is just a timeline we are seeing the most of.
Yeah, that is, what is the number designation? Earth 199999?
Sure. But yeah, I think that's the best distinction we have right now. So, again, because we have not gotten into any movies yet and everything like that, I agree with what you're saying. The prime timeline is the movies only, and even stuff like WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier should be, for us, considered right now a separate timeline until proven otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the fairest way to go about it.
Mm-hmm. And then, but then you get into the issue of, like, if the movies bring up Falcon and the Winter Soldier or bring up WandaVision, does that mean that the other one is canon? Does that mean that they're all canon?
Mm-hmm.
If they bring up a Netflix series, does that mean all the Netflix series are canon? Or just that one series? Or just the thing they mentioned?
Yeah.
Because it could just as easily be, oh, that happened similarly in this timeline, but not all of that. That was still a separate timeline.
Yeah. Like, it's possible they could say, for instance, like, Daredevil is canon, and what Daredevil did in The Defenders is canon, but Defenders didn't happen, and because none of the others were canon.
Yeah. Oh, boy. What a mess. What a mess. But so
That's what we got ourselves into.
I think we need to, and I guess we can decide when we get our first mention of something that happened in a TV show in a movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we already did with Agent Carter. So what are we considering with Agent Carter?
It's got to be canon.
The whole show, not just Jarvis.
I would say
that's
the
going to
whole
set the
show.
precedent going forward.
Yeah. I will say if a character shows up and they are clearly the same character, and then the whole show they are from is also canon.
Okay, now we're gonna get into the web of fucking confusion where
is there a Jarvis variance that is in the prime timeline?
Not that, but specifically Agent of Carter comes up in Endgame. That makes Agent Carter canon. Agent Carter is brought up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is confirmed non-canon. So what
I
is
think,
that? So
I think it's perfectly fine to just say Agent Carter is canon. That doesn't mean Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon.
Right.
That just means that the events of Agent Carter happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In the same way that, like, the prime timeline is canon to the Netflix series, because the Netflix series mentioned them a lot. But that doesn't, or at the very least, the Battle of New York.
So, yeah, something similar to the movies happened in that timeline.
Yeah.
And so, but here's my question, because I agree with you. Definitely, if another show mentioned Agent Carter, that doesn't mean that show is canon. But if Agent Carter mentioned another show, would that show be canon? Like, let's take out the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. aspect of it, because continuity there or canonity, whatever the word for that would be, is weird. Let's say Agent Carter somehow, for some fucking reason, brought up Daredevil. Just whatever. Would that make Daredevil canon, or would we still say something similar could have happened? Because you can say that about everything.
Yeah.
How many layers deep are we going?
I would say we should always stick to one layer.
Okay. So if Agents of Carter brought up Daredevil, that wouldn't make Daredevil canon?
No.
See, I want to say that it would. Because then also, I think, like, if Daredevil... I mean, let's just put it this way. If the movies bring up Daredevil, that makes Daredevil canon. Does that make the other Netflix series canon because that shit is brought up in Daredevil?
See, I'd still say no, because to be fair, like, if Daredevil is canon, for instance, like, one of the new things makes Daredevil canon, that would make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon, because Daredevil does mention the events of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1.
Does he?
We see a newspaper. You brought this up in your reaction. I only know this from you. There's a newspaper, and also they do shout out Absorbing Man, but that could be a, a variance. But at the very least, like, the newspaper is a clear, like, that is a connection. That is a reference to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, you're right. But if anything, it can... I mean, like, I would have definitely said, like, yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1 could have been canon to anything. It's really once Season 2 starts that it becomes definitely non-canon, especially with the movie stuff, of, like, it just... There's no universe in which it could be the same universe. It's just impossible. But... Loki, again, would have brought up Coulson being alive. There's no way that Mobius would have not done that.
Yeah, like, that seemed like a very clear, like, with the other things that make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. not canon, like, I know one or two of them, and they, happen later. Whereas that is a clear, like, the premise of the series is that Coulson is alive. That is a clear, like, cutting the head off. It's not possible.
Yeah. And, like, yeah, but before Loki, I would have said, well, yeah, Season 1 could definitely be canon. But yeah, like, and so now we run. Yeah, I guess you're right. If something is brought up in another series, that doesn't mean that series is then canon. It just means that something similar could have happened. But with Daredevil in the Defender, again, we haven't seen Season 3 yet, so it's gonna be weirder when we get to Season 3. But like, if Daredevil Season 3 brings up the Defenders, I mean, it would have to. I would assume, or else you're just gonna go, what the fuck happened after Season 2?
Yeah,
so
it's gotta.
So I would think that the other Netflix series have to be canon if it's brought up to that degree, where, like, he was in the show. Like, they all have such crossover that it all has to be canon. You can't just make Daredevil canon. But, okay, so setting our rules going forward. If it happens, if a, like, what makes it can't, like, Jarvis showed up in Endgame, like, it is the Jarvis from Agent Carter, so that makes it canon. That's Agent Carter's canon. A character appearing, a major character appearing. Now, if it's a minor character, how do we feel about that? Like a character that had like was in one episode. Assuming they are explicitly stated to be that character.
Even then, that's tricky, because I know we have, like, the WHIH shorts that are just, like, news things that they bring up a whole bunch, as, just across everything, because it's just, like, one guy.
Yeah, so I don't think we can count that, because that's just, again, something that could be in multiple universes. So it has to be a major character. And again, even then, it could always just be it's something very similar. But we're acknowledging that. At any point, it could be just any character. But for the sake of sanity, we are going to, like, it is until proven wrong. Like, the first stage is, it is all separate timelines until evidence that it might not be. Then it is, like Agent of Carter is in the prime timeline until there's evidence of it not being. I think that's the best way to go about it.
I think that makes the most consistent sense.
So if WandaVision is brought up in a movie, that makes WandaVision canon, but that does not make like canon to the Prime timeline. But that doesn't make Falcon and the Winter Soldier canon to the Prime timeline.
Right.
Boy, and like with how far off it's going to be in the future till we get an Avengers movie, I feel like this shit is going to be quote unquote like different timelines for us for a while.
I think we're gonna fudge it a little bit here and there, but we'll see. Because this also means that, for instance, if we were applying this rule from the very start of the MCU, we wouldn't have believed that Guardians of the Galaxy was canon until Infinity War.
Yeah. I mean, it's a movie, and we are establishing that all movies are part of the Prime timeline.
Yeah.
But also, like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier has Falcon in it, and it has Bucky in it. Does that not make it canon? WandaVision has Wanda in it. Does that not make it canon by our own rules? If a character from the movies is in a TV show, does that make it a part of the Prime timeline? Can we just say that outright?
I think we should. I think that makes sense.
I think that makes more sense. Because, I started this with, like, well, what makes the Phase 4 shows canon, not the Netflix shows? But I guess the answer is the characters.
They're clearly continuing something that is from the movies that we know are canon.
But, like, we're gonna be getting soon into the ones that aren't characters from the movies. So then what are we doing then? What makes those canon to the Prime timeline?
And then what does Morbius have to do with that?
No, not Morbius!
He's gonna be in a movie, but it's not an MCU movie.
Is El Muerto canon? But, okay... Yes. What about when we get to Moon Knight? What about when we get to Miss Marvel? So all this stuff, like, what then?
I think the same rule we'd established before of if a major character shows up in those, that makes it clear that it's part of the Prime timeline.
Okay. I mean, how much is a major character? Sif showed up in fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Sif is not a major character. Like, anyone that appeared in WandaVision besides Wanda and Vision, I think, would not have made WandaVision obviously 100% canon. I like Darcy, but Darcy is not a major character.
But what about Monica? What about Jimmy? Like, how many minor characters have to appear before we acquiesce?
5.
5? That would mean WandaVision not canon if it didn't have Wanda or Vision.
I mean, if it didn't have Wanda or Vision, I would agree it's probably not canon.
No, at least 3. WandaVision has Darcy, Jimmy, and Monica. That's a solid 3.
Okay.
So I think we should do 3, because there's no way there's going to be 5 in, like, 6-episode shows. Like, Falcon and Winter Soldier has Batroc, it had Carter, and it had Zemo. Well, I guess it also had Io, it also had, did it have Okoye? No, it didn't have Okoye, right?
No, it was just Io.
Yeah. I thought there was another character as well, but I can't.
Yeah, I'll give you 3. I'll let you bargain me down to 3. Because I think 3, and it's got to be characters that you recognize as a clear, like, oh, that person was in the movies.
I mean, we didn't recognize Batroc for the entire thing, but that's on us.
That's on us.
But okay, so 3. And yeah, I think that's a good way to go. 3 minor characters or 1 major character. We're making an entire formula for what is the fucking Prime timeline at this point.
We need the formula. Even though, of course, I mean, there's definitely ways we could just figure this out of universe. But I think it makes more sense to have the formula.
Yeah. Like, out of universe, we could just go off of what fucking Kevin Feige says. But at that point, why don't we just listen to the TVA?
True. No masters, no gods.
No masters, no gods, death of the author. So, yeah, I like the rules that we have established. I don't think we need to go over them again. I think they're pretty clear. I don't think this is confusing to anybody. I hope not.
Let's just institute the extra rule of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is just not canon. Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does have at least 3 minor characters from the movies.
Yeah, that's true. And so excluding Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Of course.
I mean, again, it is the, like, until proven definitely not canon.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
They can have a major character. But then if it is, like, if it is like, you know, it can have like one contradiction, and it's like, okay, whatever, it's like one contradiction. If it has like fucking 5 contradictions like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has, or just like the biggest possible contradiction of like S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot still be existing for any of the movies to make weight, or for Cap's character to not be fucked up entirely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. So yeah, we're still sticking with, for it to be considered canon, it has to have a major character. It has to have either a major character or 3 minor characters, or the movies have to bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Same.
Whew. Okay, so. Oh boy.
Let us know in the comments if you disagree with the formula.
Yeah, honestly, leave us a comment. Fucking let us know what, like, not using future knowledge and everything like that. Like,
of course,
what you think about this idea and stuff. Just
Team
leave
Thor
more
is
comments
canon.
in general. By the way, love of God.
Oh yeah.
I know we're recording
Please do.
so far like back now, or I mean not so far back. You know what I'm saying? These shows have ended, and there's 1,000 shows ahead of us, and people know so much more than we do that it's hard to like make a comment without spoiling something. But try, come on.
Yeah.
I feel like we get so little comments on this stuff because people are too afraid to like say anything besides like, yeah, I loved the show when it came out.
Yeah. No, feel free. If you see something you like in the episode, talk about it. If you like something about the reaction, talk about it. We love it. We're creators. We thrive on it. It's what gives us life.
It is the only reason I'm doing this shit. To keep me sane. The entire point of this channel is fucking for mental health. It is to feel like I'm talking to people about this shit. Because I'm so bad about interacting with fandoms that it's much easier for me to just create a channel and just put all that out there. But I still want that discussion.
If you do or don't want us to spend another 20 minutes working on a scientific formula in order to determine whether something is canon or not canon, leave a comment.
No, we're doing it anyway.
Oh, don't tell them.
we spent so much more on that formula than we did the episode itself. But I feel like the episode itself was primarily making me think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like, as you said in the reaction, it is a very different kind of show. It's more quiet, it's more, like, contemplative, and the questions it brings up are so different compared to something like WandaVision or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where we can't just, like, to talk about it a ton in the thing itself because it's so separate from what we're seeing. And what we're seeing is, you know, more, like, decompressed.
And like we just have the curse of talking in our reactions more than most reactors do, I feel like, because we have a pretty good sense of when characters are talking and when they're done talking, and it's gonna be a like no dialogue scene.
Yeah,
like I feel like we have a pretty good sense of that. You know, people have said that in my comments multiple times of just like, wow, you know, you have a good sense, or you guys have a good sense of just when to talk and not be interrupting something. We've been doing this for so long. I feel like we're really good at that. And so we just naturally discuss stuff in the episode because we have a sense of how much time we have to say a sentence.
Yeah.
But that then leads to, when we get to the discussion, it's like, well, we don't want to just say everything we said in the reaction again. And I feel like I'm getting better at that. Versus before, a lot of my discussion would just be repeating shit I said in the reaction. Versus now I'm trying to get better about like the discussion should be stuff I didn't bring up or I wanted to expand upon.
Same. Hopefully, I'm getting better at that.
Yeah, I don't like the discussions to just be I liked that scene, I like that scene, I like that scene, because it's like you can see that in my reaction. The discussion should be expanding upon ideas.
Yeah, like. Is it possible for a bottle episode to be an entire planet with a bunch of different sets? Because this, like, I know this does not really qualify for the literal definition of what a bottle episode is, but it still feels like one in terms of, you know, we have two characters we're really focusing on. They're in an area where they can't, like, go somewhere else or advance the plot some other way.
I wouldn't say bottle episode, I would say episodic episode.
Okay. Like, I can see that.
It is a bottle adventure, which is what most episodic shows are.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a bottle episode because it's not in one room or one like building or anything like that. I would definitely say it is a bottle adventure.
That's a good way of putting it. It's a Rick and Morty episode.
Sure. Oh, but yeah, I also like. Sorry, going back to Rick and Morty. Actually, this does make me think. Like, are they only protecting timelines in which the TVA is the most powerful thing? Like in that thing, because there's got to be other timelines in which their shit would not work.
Yeah.
Like, even with the Infinity Stones and that, every universe probably doesn't have Infinity Stones. I mean, our universe doesn't. Maybe. maybe we do. I don't know.
Yeah, like, in terms of, the way the comics define the multiverse, which, should apply in some vague way to the MCU since, the MCU has, like, a number, like the, that one. Like, the comics consider our worlds to also be part of the Marvel multiverse. And like, all sorts of other things where it's like, this is just a universe made out of pure punch energy, or this is a universe made of meat.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of things that are not, anything encompassing the sacred timeline. So I do think it's actually a really good theory that the sacred timeline is an encapsulated, like, just collection of, like, these are all ones that make sense, and we prune the ones that are diverging from this general idea. And we're just gonna, like, blank out everything else. You don't want to look at it, you don't want to know about it.
To be fair, I don't even mean the sacred. Like, the sacred timeline is clearly one timeline now, because if they go back and fix it, like, I think that was confusing before, but now I kind of get it. It's the same thing in Endgame, where if we put back the stones, the timeline is just one thing. It has always happened that way.
Yeah.
Even though that's not how it was described in the game, I think that's how it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah. But, so... originally, there was a bunch of timelines that the Timekeepers put together into one timeline. Now, that's not every timeline. It cannot possibly be, or else we are dealing with one timeline only. And why is it always, every time we're time traveling, Earth and humans? Like, other than Loki's.
Yeah, because that would also actually really help explain the, like, almost every, like, not every time, but Loki's are, like, the main problem that they have that keeps on happening over and over again.
Yeah. But, and even then, that's still so similar to our own timeline, because it's Loki. It's, not our own being the prime timeline. Sorry. Weird way to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, is this all the timelines in which the quote-unquote timekeepers, which even if there are timekeepers, it's not the timekeepers we're showing, is what I mean by the timekeepers aren't real.
Yeah.
Like, there might be someone who did all that. There might be the timekeepers, but it's not the three figures we're seeing. But anyway, did whoever did that collect the timelines in which they could be the most powerful and left all the other ones alone? And, like, yeah, that shit, whatever happens in there, I don't give a shit, but...
Yeah. I could very, very much see it happening.
It is we are the most powerful because we selected the universes in which we are the most powerful.
That's a good-ass theory.
I mean, also, is disintegrating somebody with the baton disintegrating them? Or is it just sending them somewhere else, maybe?
Could just be a reset.
It could just be a reset. They go back to, like, a room in the TVA and are re-brainwashed or anything like that.
Possible.
But then what about, like, the variant that got disintegrated? Like, it could easily be, they're just disintegrating them. But now, I feel like I've got to question everything. What if they are just being sent to a timeline that is, not the sacred timeline, and they're just like, well, put them in a different place and it's somebody else's problem now.
It's very much possible.
I don't think they would be above killing, but there's always the possibility that something else is going on.
Yeah.
Or they put them in the big power generator and kick them.
Because, we still haven't answered the question from the previous episode of what are the reset charges, in the sense that, like, if the reset, we were told that the reset charges just reset the timeline, you fix it, you put back the Infinity Stone, everything's good, it all goes as, plans. But how can those possibly cause divergences to the timeline, the way Sylvie used them?
Yeah, still don't know. But yeah, I think also during the reaction you put it very well of like I've been struggling with how the show feels to me and like in its look, like its vibe whenever we go to these like time places. But yeah, I think you're right. It's supposed to look like an MCU-ified Doctor Who.
Yeah. I definitely get that vibe.
And yeah, I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that. Because it is like, it's the parts of the MCU look I don't like, and then it's the parts of like Doctor Who look that I don't like put together.
I can see that. I have a lot of nostalgia for Doctor Who, so it does hit me in a way that I enjoy.
Gotcha. Like, I think the costumes and stuff I'm getting more on board for now. Like the Pompeii one worried me, but now that we have this one and stuff, like I'm more into it. I'm like, okay, I do like the costumes a lot. Like how fake they look, for lack of a better word. I mean, I think that's a perfectly fine word to use. They look fake. They're supposed to.
I think that's fine.
But like the stuff that bothers me more is like it's like they're mixing the bad green screen of Doctor Who with the bad green screen of the MCU. It's just like that's the issue that I kind of have of like the flatness of the backgrounds, the bad green screen and masking and stuff and like just the heavy filters. Like, God, the filters are so heavy. Which I don't even think of as a Doctor Who thing. That's so much more of an MCU thing.
Yeah, I think that's way more of an MCU thing.
Yeah. It's like, I wish they would go heavier on it looking like Doctor Who, rather than like making it kind of look like Doctor Who and then masking it with super heavy like filters that just make it look weird.
Yeah. Because I do appreciate that each of the TV shows so far have had a very, very distinct, like, directorial style and visual style that is, it's still, a bit MCU. It's still tied into everything else, but it also feels very distinctly different. And there have been different things about each series that we've really, really praised.
Yeah. And, like, they all have very distinct lighting styles as well. Very distinct, as you said, directing styles, the way the camera moves, the way they shoot things. Loki changes that up so much that and not even like a WandaVision way, versus like that's all, looking like how TV is shot. But like this is all just like if each of these episodes, like if I just saw a clip from each of these episodes, I'm not sure if I would think that's all one thing. I would just think that's clips from around the MCU if I hadn't seen the MCU or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying for sure.
Like, if I had no context, versus, like, if you showed me any clip from WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier, I don't think I would confuse it for being in some other place. I would be like, well, that has to be the same thing that other clip was from.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Because, yeah, like, even across all of WandaVision, like, even though the styles are very clearly, like, we're doing this period, we're doing this period, we're doing this period. Like, I've seen so many, like, 4-panel things on Twitter that have been, like, different shots from WandaVision. And you can still, like, there's still a vague semblance of, like, yeah, it's all the same thing, though.
Yeah. Whew. Anything else we want to say about the actual episode here?
I guess this is not something about the actual episode, but it's one more thing I want to bring up.
Sure.
Which is that with the concept of variants hanging about, and, with the idea of, like, timelines being purged and all that, basically any of these characters can still show up, like, even if they are killed in Loki or destroyed here, or if, like, Lamentis gets destroyed in this timeline forever, or, like, in the timeline they're in right now, like, all of this stuff can still show up in the prime timeline.
Yeah.
Like, the only character I think that can't without it being literally this person is Sylvie, because Sylvie is such a, like, distinct variant of Loki. Like, you wouldn't have, like, a ton of Sylvies out there in the multiverse. Like, Sylvie is very much her own person, separate from, even being a Loki or identifying as a Loki.
Yeah.
But, like, Mobius or, like, Ravonna, like, they could still, like, show up as variants in, the prime MCU or, in other timeline stuff should they die.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I appreciate also how, like the show, it's how do I put it? It's the classic thing of, like, the show is doing very queer themes, very, like, trans themes as well, but without actually doing it, which is always the, like, I wish that they would also do stuff for that, but I understand the metaphor being metaphor as well. In the same way, like, the X-Men is great as a standalone thing, as a standalone mutant oppression thing. Like, without it having to be a metaphor, it is good. It's also good as a metaphor with having, like, things that don't exactly line up perfectly. If the metaphor lines up perfectly, then it's just not as good.
Yeah, like, if the metaphor is perfect, then I would rather you just do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, if mutants didn't have powers and were just an oppressed minority of people, then it's like, well, why didn't you just make a series about an oppressed minority of people like this?
Yeah. And, like
then
you can do it pretty close to perfectly, and it'd still be good. But there's, like, again, if it's literally perfect, you might as well just do a show about the thing you're doing a metaphor about.
Yeah, like, it's why people do love it when there are, like, you know, queer X-Men, for instance, because then you can do, like, we are, you know, this person is a metaphor for being queer, and also they are queer. Like, we're doing both. We're doing, like, they're alienated because they have, you know, these psychic powers that freaked out their parents, and also, separately, they're dealing with being queer, and maybe that, you know, didn't bother their parents at all. Maybe they have very supportive parents, but also they got ostracized for being a mutant. Like, that's a unique thing that you can do, as opposed to just, like, yeah, like, just kind of, like, skirting this year, going, like, this is our stand-in, so we don't actually have to have queer people in the show.
Yeah, exactly. It is the X-Men problem of, like, the X-Men are better when the X-Men are minorities, when they are, you know, queer people, when it is, you know, stuff like that. But then the X-Men is at its worst when it's a bunch of straight white people. Because it's like, you're doing the metaphor, but you're doing it with stand-ins this is just, it just feels weird. And, like, that's why it's like, Loki is doing very good, because it is, you know, a show that has a lot of queer themes, a lot of trans themes specifically, and Loki, I mean, it is stated in his card, it's not outright and everything like that, and they could be more outright with it. And we got a little bit in this episode where Loki stated he is bisexual or pansexual, or, you know, whichever flavor it is there. But, like, it's better to have the character be both. And it doesn't need to be a perfect metaphor, because, like, it's just, you know, Sylvie has a lot of trans stuff going on, but, like, it's so inherently, you can see it in the character that you don't, like, need to explicitly state it outright, versus, like, again, the X-Men stuff where they're all just straight white people, and it's just like, boy, you know, you can't even imagine that it might not be. I think, like, the closest thing I've ever seen to having, like, a perfect metaphor that isn't exactly perfect is I've been showing you Stranger Things recently, and Will Byers in Stranger Things being queer, and then all the stuff supernatural going on. Like, every single line has a double meaning to him being queer or the stuff he's going through supernaturally. And it's, like, the closest where it's, like, everything is, like, 99% like, you know, could be either one. But then there's that last, like, 1% that doesn't quite fit, but, like, you know, I think that's the closest that has come to being, like, perfect. It's like, X-Men's pretty far away, I would say, from being a perfect metaphor for anything. I mean, even to the point where it's like, it's not really a metaphor for being queer, it's not really a metaphor for being, like, a, like, racial minority or a religious minority or anything. Like, it kind of works for all of them, but it doesn't even work for one specifically very heavily. But I think that's also why X-Men is one of the best, because it's, like, you know, when it's done well, when it's done with those actual characters. I've been watching the 90s X-Men animated series, and I think that's been doing it, like, the best of the stuff I've seen so far, because I'm not reading modern Marvel X-Men stuff, which I assume, hopefully, is doing it the actual best.
Yeah, like, a lot of, you know, even stuff in, like, the 80s and whatnot that people remember and like about the X-Men is stuff that, you know, incorporates actual, like, oppressed, you know, minority characters into what they are doing, as it clear, like, we're doing both. Because, otherwise, just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. But, so I appreciate Loki for being that kind of show where, as opposed to, like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is not doing a metaphor. It is a straight up, like, here's what it's like to be a black man being Captain America. There is no kind of metaphor here. It is on the nose with it and everything like that. And like that is very much so greatly appreciated. But also, I wouldn't want the show to be like the show that is about being queer in an MCU world. I wouldn't want that with Loki because he's an Asgardian god. You know, it's too far removed. Versus like if you're gonna just straight up, and I think that's also an amazing thing about the MCU is that we can get that kind of stuff. Like, you know, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is perfect because it is about being a black man in America, but more than that even, I mean, maybe not even more than that, but at the same time, being that in the MCU, being that, like, being Captain America, all that stuff as well. And so, like, you know, the MCU can do those kind of things. We can get the show like this that is a metaphor, and then we can get the other shows that are, no, we're just doing the thing. And yeah, so if we get a show that is being queer in the MCU and like, you know, something like being an Avenger that is queer or being like just someone very public, like a superhero that is queer, like I want that, but I don't want that with Loki. I want it touched upon and I want it talked about, but I don't want that to be the main focus as our first one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that. I get it.
Like, I'm glad we're bringing up his sexuality. I'm glad we're bringing up his gender, and like we're doing these themes. But like, yeah, I'm glad it is metaphor rather than just doing the thing. Because I would want that saved for a time where it could hit harder.
Yeah.
And like, I hope we get that soon. But I'm not saying like, oh, hold off on it because I don't want it yet. I'm saying like, no, I don't want it with Loki. But boy, we could have got it sooner too. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many opportunities that they just haven't. And I mean, like, I think everyone knows about the eternal like, hey guys, we're doing the queer character in the MCU for the 5th time.
Yeah. Like
so
the Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of story could only really take place after Endgame, just by nature of what happens with Steve and everything. But like, having a queer character be a queer superhero and face with the public stuff would have been much better to have during the Civil War time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the, like, boy, how long are we gonna fucking wait for this? But yeah, I'm glad that, I mean, I guess we didn't really talk about it, but Loki is now confirmed the first, like, gay major character, or, like, queer major character in, I say gay so many times to mean queer because I've used it for myself. I say gay when my sexuality is really just queer. But bisexual, whatever, I go by whatever the fuck. But, like, we're really getting that for the first time now because I don't count saying meta shit as, counting. Like, yes, they are, but they don't get cookie points for that,
Yeah.
But, like, it's crazy that it's not until Phase 4 that we're getting a major character being, like, said in a thing that they are by. Like, I'm not even going to count the fluid thing on the card. Like, that's a small thing as well, and that would still be the first instance of there being any evidence in the movie itself or the show itself. Well, I mean, the show being the prime timeline.
Of course.
But, yeah, Loki stating he is bisexual, pansexual, omnisexual, whatever he would want to go by. That's, like, the first time we're getting explicit mention of that in something like this, which is crazy that it's taken that long. Again, we're watching Jessica Jones season 2 on the side, and there's like what, 6 or 8 gay characters in Jessica Jones already?
Yeah.
And that's like one show, and we're like 4 episodes into season 2. It's insane how easy it is to do. But yeah, and before this, the only queer character we've had has been fucking Joe Russo, was it?
Yeah, it was Joe Russo. He was our representation.
He was our representation. I still can't believe that's still the craziest thing that has ever happened in the MCU.
You should have been there when we got the announcement that there was going to be an LGBT character in Endgame.
Oh my god. But yeah, so I think that's it for this episode.
Banger of an ending song as well. I've never actually heard the song before, but I wonder if, like, when they pick these songs, like, did they just do a big Control F to try and find every song that includes, like, the words gods and mortals in them?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, this one does work really, really well. Yeah, Dark Moon by Bonnie Guitar.
Yeah.
In which he's, the dark moon up in the sky, mortals have dreams of love's perfect schemes, but they don't really realize the love will sometimes bring a dark moon.
Yeah, holding up for a hero is looser of a mention of gods and stuff like that, but also I've seen so many AMVs or, the like that include god characters, so I guess, it's very fitting in that sense. I see it a lot for Disney stuff like that, but, so, even more fitting. But yeah, all of Phase 4 has been having some banger fucking sound. 1, banger soundtracks, and 2, banger, like, songs being licensed and everything like that. Because I would definitely say, for a lot of the MCU movies, I don't really notice the OST that much. And, there's a couple themes that I really notice, but that's about it. I feel like I see a lot of stuff, like people really liking the OST from these movies, but I feel like that's more being around that stuff for so long and listening to it multiple times versus, like, just hearing it in the movie. It doesn't mean, like, even the Avengers theme doesn't mean that much to me versus, like, Falcon's theme. I loved that theme. And, like, I think just the OSTs in general have been much, much better going forward in Phase 4. And the, and there's still some of the movies that I can name, but just not compared to how many we're getting in Phase 4. The percentage is so much higher. And the licensed songs, again, we got a lot of those throughout the movies. Can't really remember any of them aside from Guardians of the Galaxy and Immigrant Song. I can't. I know Captain Marvel had, like, one for the motorcycle, and I can't even remember what fucking song that was.
Oh, same. But no, I would agree. Like, licensed songs, barely remember them, except for the ones from Guardians and, like, 1 or 2 from Ragnarok.
I don't even remember a second one from Ragnarok. Name a second one. What was it?
Oh boy, what was the second one from Ragnarok? I can't do this on the spot.
Yeah, you remember it so well.
I remember it exists.
I mean, I remember a motorcycle song existed.
Fair, we're even then. I win.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, I didn't count that. But either way, most of the songs used in the MCU movies are pretty forgettable. Of, like, Iron Man had some, and then we kind of stopped doing that.
we called back to it with Peter.
Yeah, I guess so. But, like, we used to get, like, when Iron Man would show up in a movie, we get an AC/DC song and then stop doing that. But yeah, should have been playing an AC/DC song at his funeral. Play fucking Ball Breaker at his funeral.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we're done.
I think we're done. Boy, I thought this discussion was gonna be the shortest one yet. I was like, what are we even gonna talk about? But I mean, this was the big talk about just the MCU. This was the big revelation episode. It didn't seem like that as we're watching it, but looking back, it's like, yeah, this was a monumental episode for what it means for the MCU as a whole.
Now, let's watch as this falls apart in Episode 6 when they change what the concept of the multiverse is. Or rather, create one.
Yeah, like, boy, if we, like, create the multiverse... Like, what would that even mean? Because then how would, like, the fucking Spider-Man movies exist? How would Blade exist? How would, like, any of this shit, exist if we're creating the multiverse at a time now? I mean... TVA, I guess, is timeless.
It's time, though. Yeah, like, it's time. You can make something that was in the past. You can diverge the MCU now and then have it be Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy in the past.
I hate it. How do you diverge the sacred timeline into Sam Raimi's fucking Spider-Man? How does that happen?
It's real tough. It's real tough.
Oh my god. How do you diverge the timeline into Blade happening? That's just something that didn't happen, then it all happening.
We don't know that Blade eventually doesn't become the MCU.
Anyway, that's it for this episode. We will see you guys for the next episode. Until then, get the fuck out of here.